of the Woozy, and so we are introduced to one of L. Frank Baum's most enigmatic animal creations. The Woozy is one of a kind. As Ojo points out in the Patchwork Girl of Oz, the sign does not say, "Beware a Woozy," it says, "Beware the Woozy," which may mean there's only one in all the land of Oz. Baum himself confirms this uniqueness a few short paragraphs later, stating, "This is the only Woozy that has ever lived, either in the land of Oz or out of it," leading into a physical description. The creature was all squares and flat surfaces and edges. Its head was an exact square, like one of the building blocks a child plays with. Therefore, it had no ears, but heard sounds through two openings in the upper corners. Its nose, being in the center of a square surface, was flat, while the mouth was formed by the opening of the lower edge of the block. The body of the Woozy was much larger than its head, but was likewise block-shaped, being twice as long as it was wide and high. The tail was square and stubby and perfectly straight, and the four legs were made in the same way, each being four-sided. The animal was covered with a thick, smooth skin and had no hair at all except at the extreme end of its tail, where there grew exactly 3 stiff, stubby hairs. The beast was dark blue in color, and his face was not fierce nor ferocious in expression, but rather good-humored and droll. And that's pretty much all Baum had to say about his creation, at least during its introduction, for even the Woozy's backstory is mostly left shrouded in mystery. The only information the Woozy provides Ojo and the Patchwork Girl about his past is the reason for his current imprisonment, that the local Munchkin farmers had locked him up to prevent him from eating their honeybees. Our introduction to the Woozy in the Oz canon, The Patchwork Girl of Oz, was published on July 1st, 1913. Just under a year later, on June 15, 1914, Baum's newly formed and ultimately ill-fated Oz Film Manufacturing Company would enter principal photography on its first production, an adaptation of that same title. This is the sequence in which the Woozy's location is discovered and the Patchwork Girl subsequently enters the enclosure. Just like in the book, the Woozy in the film has been imprisoned in a cave, from which Ojo and the Patchwork Girl, and, in this case, a whole host of other Munchkins, set him free after their attempts to extract the 3 hairs from the end of its tail end in failure. Post-liberation, however, the Woozy is largely relegated to the periphery of the story until the very end of the movie. Despite the lack of screen time, the Oz Film Manufacturing Company must have seen great potential in the Woozy as a character to exploit in the real world, for Baum's most square creation would serve as the primary focal point of the marketing and publicity efforts of the nascent outfit. The Woozy was played by actor Fred Woodward, a performer specializing in animal impersonations on the vaudeville circuit. Baum and Woodward already had a working relationship prior to the film. For the previous year, Woodward had starred as Hank the Mule in Baum's stage musical extravaganza, The Tick-Tock Man of Oz. With the unique requirements inherent in bringing children's fantasy books to filmic life, Baum quickly signed Woodward to play the majority of animal and fantastical creature roles demanded by his new movie-making venture. Here we see the Woozy's grand entrance on the screen. To modern eyes spoiled by the magic of computer-generated imagery, where almost anything imaginable can be created in a believable manner, Woodward's Woozy is one of the most realistic of all the animals in Baum's films by the very nature of the creature's unreality. The boxy body of the Woozy is easily reproduced from a costume standpoint, while the character's movement, however awkward and jerky, still somehow makes sense, cut free as it is from the expectations of replicating a real-world animal. As previously mentioned, the Woozy played only a minor role in the film, not even appearing until a third of the way through the movie. The Oz Film Manufacturing Company's use of the character in film industry promotion was commensurately small, most notably this advertisement in Moving Picture World, in which he is both pictured and specifically mentioned with the words, "Be sure to see the whimsical Woozy." Only when it came to marketing to the public at large did the Woozy finally see center stage. Perhaps the first use of the Woozy in audience-facing publicity occurred in this series of Hamburger's department store advertisements run in the Los Angeles Evening Herald over several days in mid-October 1914. Hamburger's was the major department store in Los Angeles at the time. the building itself not only the single largest department store in Los Angeles, but anywhere west of Chicago. 2 points stand out from these advertisements. First are these lines from the October 16th ad. He is alive and will be at Hamburgers on Saturday at 3 p.m. to entertain the children. Come Saturday, see the Woozy. See him dance, spit fire from his eyes, and if you're good, you can shake hands with him. The Herald's other ads in the days leading up to the event featured variants of this text. While we have no way of knowing if Woodward himself made the Hamburgers' appearance, I think it reasonable to assume that he did. The costume on hand was tailor-made to fit him, he knew how to move as the creature, and in the early days of Hollywood pre-star culture, there would have been no expectations otherwise. The rules of Hollywood as we know them had yet to be written. What I find intriguing is that the ad touts his eyes spitting fire at the event. I'm quite curious how the Oz Film Manufacturing Company accomplished this effect in public, even considering the less stringent safety standards of the day. This is the sequence from the film in which the eyes, quote, unquote, spark 3 separate times in order to burn down the fence. A frame-by-frame breakdown of the eyes sparking reveals nothing in the way of actual flame. It appears that the Woozy's eyes first emit a puff of smoke and then a stream of water. I used the third such sparking sequence for this breakdown since it was the clearest of the 3. Although even here the quality is too poor to say for sure, a closer look at the sparking appears to show the smoke first coming from the right eye, and then a single jet of liquid coming from the left. Such a setup would make sense considering the limited way Woodward would have been able to activate the mechanisms. With the scene involving full body movements while being shot in a single uninterrupted take, as was the nature of filmmaking at the time, the effects could not be cheated as they might have been even a few years later. Sparking eyes in public or not, Hamburgers was not the Woozy's only public appearance. The October 29th edition of the Los Angeles Times previewed a Halloween event at Ocean Park, a boardwalk just south of Santa Monica. The Halloween festivity featured the Woozy, Oz Film Company star Violet McMillan, who played Ojo in the Patchwork Girl of Oz, and Gloria Gottschalk, daughter of Oz Film Company composer and company vice president Louis Gottschalk. According to the Times, the big Woozy, which moves, shakes hands, and performs screamingly funny little stunts, is expected to prove a tremendous hit. The only other reference to the real Woozy making a public appearance that I have uncovered is another Los Angeles Times article, this one from December 14. The Times reports that Mrs. Woozy was an interested onlooker from a seat of honor at a Woozy dance at the Hotel Green in Pasadena, during which she also gave several interesting exhibitions and was noticed quite frequently on the ballroom floor. A Woozy dance indeed. One can only wonder what exhibitions were involved, perhaps more sparking? Regardless, while these 2 events are the only ones for which I have evidence, it is quite likely that the real Woozy popped up elsewhere in the Los Angeles area in October of 1914. In both these articles, the Times also made note of little or baby Woozies, which brings us back to the aforementioned second point of note in the Hamburgers ads. In addition to the Woozy meet and greet, the store also offered a drawing contest, with the prize being 2 dear little wood Woozies. These wooden toys, one of the earliest if not the first movie tie-in toys ever created, were produced by the Oz Toy Manufacturing Company, a parallel venture of Baum, his Oz Film Company partners, and other local businessmen that was incorporated sometime prior to September 13, 1914, when the incorporation of the new venture was first published in the Los Angeles Times. The Dear Little Wood Woozy is the only toy company product for which we have actual evidence. Despite an apparently extensive production run, 300 of the Woozies were given away at the Hotel Green Woozy dance alone, and later, after the toy's brief popularity waned, the Baum kids used to enjoy throwing crates of them on the fire. Only 2 examples are known to survive. However fleeting, the toy did indeed have some small degree of popularity in the greater Los Angeles area society set, perhaps even making more of a splash than the film itself. The Ocean Park Halloween article stated, with the motto, "Be a Woozy, be square," the novel animal promises to become one of the season's fads. Little Woozies are becoming the popular fashion with society maids here. Later, nearly a month after the Ocean Park event, the November 25th edition of the Los Angeles Evening Herald featured a nearly full-page-sized image of one Miss Jean Ward holding the Woozy toy and reiterating the Be a Woozy model, indicating the slogan was part of the Oz Film Manufacturing Company's detailed marketing push. The Herald article reports, Be a Woozy, Be Square is the latest model of novelty-loving Southland society girls. The Woozy is the mascot of the merry group of Seal Beach society girls worn on their handbags. After Miss Ward introduced him at a house party with the Woozy, both big and small, also to be introduced at the aforementioned dance in Pasadena's Hotel Greens at December 2nd. News of that same Pasadena event would extend at least as far as San Jose, where it warranted a society page write-up in the December 6th edition of the San Jose Mercury Herald. As late as February 1915, Moving Picture World reported that Violet Macmillan's introduction of the Woozy into fashionable society has caused the little animal of fairy tale fame to become quite popular. Of course, this statement could be in reference to any or all of the documented events or something else entirely. The Los Angeles Times' second recap of the Pasadena dance, coming in the society pages a week after the first, did mention Violet Macmillan being in attendance alongside the various debutantes of note, while she had previously accompanied the real Woozy to Ocean Park. Such happenings, when reported by Moving Picture World, were usually published on a 2-week lag, with society news often taking longer to hit the press. Regardless, what stands out about the Woozy's cause celeb is its surprisingly late timing. All events for which documentation exists took place between late October and December, well after the Patchwork Girl of Oz was released to its sadly less than stellar box office returns. The Woozy was even a subject of focus in local newspaper advertisements and articles for the Patchwork Girl, as with this ad run by Paramount in the Marysville Appeal. The same week, in that very paper, the Woozy also featured prominently in a series of articles, referenced first with a sketch and the subheading Terrible Woozy, and later with the heading Real Live Woozies and a subheading There's the Woozy. Considering the Woozy's small role in the film, such focus could be a sign of how well the Oz Film Manufacturing Company's efforts had seeded recognition of the character, while unfortunately falling short for the film itself. And there you have it, the Woozy, one of a kind in the books, on the screen, and in the real world.